On Valentine's Day, I found my neighbor's luxury roses on our table. I checked the hall camera and ended my engagement with one cold goodbye. Let me tell you, if your fiancée suddenly doesn't want to go out on Valentine's Day, it might be because she's busy entertaining the neighborhood Chad. Ask me how I know. I, 32 male, work as a paramedic. Pretty decent job, not making bank or anything, but I help people and I enjoy it. I was engaged to Bailey, 28 female, who works in marketing for some trendy startup. We'd been together for 3 years, engaged for the last 8 months. Life was good. I thought it was pretty damn good. We met at a friend's barbecue. Classic. I was off duty after a 24-hour shift, looking like absolute trash. But Bailey walked over and started chatting me up anyway. She was gorgeous, blonde hair, green eyes, the kind of smile that hits you right in the chest. When she asked what I did for a living, she actually seemed impressed instead of just nodding politely like most people do. We exchanged numbers, and the rest is history. Or at least it was. Things were rock solid between us in the beginning. When I got certified for advanced life support last year, she threw me a surprise party with all my work buddies. When her dad got diagnosed with prostate cancer, I drove her to visit him 3 weekends in a row, 4 hours each way. We were a team. After dating for a year, we moved in together. Found this nice apartment complex with a gym and a little community garden, but I still held on to my old place across town, kept it under my name just in case. I proposed on our 2-year anniversary during a hike up to Eagle Point. Just us and the sunset. She cried and said yes, and that was that. I even started restoring this badass 1978 Chevy El Camino at that time. Found it on Craigslist for a decent price. Engine was shot to hell, interior was trashed, but the body was solid with minimal rust. I've always been into classic cars, and this was going to be our weekend cruiser after we got hitched. Bailey didn't know jack about cars when we met. Hell, she didn't even have a driver's license. Grew up in New York City, never needed one, so I taught her everything from scratch, spent weeks practicing in empty mall parking lots until she finally passed her test. Man, the look on her face when she got her license, I was so freaking proud of her. But then that dude, I'll name him Cal, moved in across the hall about 4 months ago. And that's when things started going sideways. Cal was every douchebag stereotype rolled into one jack package. Drives a glossy black BMW, lease obviously, always talking about his macros and his fitness journey, works in finance or tech sales or something equally douchey that apparently requires him to take calls on speaker in the hallway. And he had this annoying habit of working out shirtless in the communal area of our building. Like, dude, nobody wants to see you doing burpees by the mailboxes at 7 a.m. I noticed pretty quick how Bailey's behavior changed whenever he was around. At first, I brushed it off as nothing, but then I started seeing the signs. She'd get all giggly, touch her hair a lot, laugh way too hard at his lame jokes. Cal would conveniently be doing some stretching routine that showed off his abs whenever we'd run into him. I cringed so hard for him. He'd talk about his killer gym session, or the latest health supplement he was taking. One night, I came home from a particularly rough shift, multiple car accident, 2 fatalities, one of them a kid. The kind of day that hollows you out. All I wanted was to shower off the hospital smell and crash. Found Bailey in the hallway outside our apartment laughing with Cal. She was in her yoga pants and sports bra, hair still wet from the shower. When she saw me, there was this split-second flash of annoyance on her face before she switched to concern. "Babe, you look exhausted," she said, touching my arm. But she didn't move away from Cal, who stood there watching us with this smug little half-smile. "Tough day saving lives?" he asked. And something in his tone made it sound condescending, like what I did was some kind of joke. I just nodded and went inside. Bailey followed a few minutes later, acting all worried about me. But she'd been out there talking to him for who knows how long while I was dealing with literal life and death. Just one of those moments that sticks with you later. The weird thing was, whenever I ran into Cal alone, he was friendly enough. He'd ask about my shift or comment on the weather, normal neighbor stuff. But put Bailey in the mix and suddenly he's flexing and peacocking, like a peacock. Then I started noticing how Bailey would casually drop his name into conversations. Cal says this restaurant has amazing sushi, or Cal knows the owner of that club downtown. One time I was telling her about this cool new taco place my work buddy recommended and she goes, "Oh yeah, Cal mentioned that place. He said the margaritas are really strong. Like, why the hell does she know what Cal thinks about every restaurant in the city?" When I called her out on it, she'd just roll her eyes. "We're neighbors, we talk sometimes, relax." But I could tell there was more to it. She'd get defensive real quick, which is always a red flag. The week before Valentine's Day is when things got really weird. I wanted to take her out, make it special. There's this fancy steakhouse downtown that she'd been hinting at wanting to try for months. But suddenly she's all, let's just stay in. I'm tired from work. This from the same girl who usually jumps at any chance to get dressed up and go out. Looking back, that should have been my first real warning. I also started noticing she was glued to her phone more than usual. Always texting, always smiling at the screen. When I'd walk into the room, she'd flip it over or quickly switch apps. Classic sketchy behavior. When I asked who she was texting so much, she'd say just Jenna or work stuff. I didn't push it, but my gut was screaming that something was off. The weekend before Valentine's Day, I was working on the El Camino in our complex's parking lot. Cal strolls by, stops to look at the car. Sweet project, he says, peering at the engine bay. How long you've been working on it? About 6 months, I tell him, not really in the mood to chat, but trying to be civil. Cool. He nods, then adds, Bailey mentioned you guys have been together a while. Wedding coming up soon? Something about the way he said it rubbed me wrong, like he was fishing for info. Yeah, next fall, I reply, tightening a bolt, probably harder than necessary. Nice. Well, good luck with the car, man. He wanders off, but not before glancing up at our apartment window, where I could see Bailey watching us from behind the curtain. That night, I casually brought it up. Ran into Cal today. He was asking about our wedding. Her eyes flickered for just a second before she shrugged. Oh, yeah, that's random. Yeah, I agreed. Random that you've apparently been talking to him about our relationship. Don't be weird, she snapped. He probably just saw my ring and asked about it when we crossed paths last week. I let it go, but that knot in my stomach was getting tighter. February 14th rolls around. Despite Bailey's insistence on staying in, I decided to surprise her anyway. I picked up her favorite chocolate-covered strawberries from that specialty shop downtown, and I planned to cook her favorite pasta dish and maybe watch a movie. But before heading home, I reached out to Jenna, Bailey's best friend. We weren't close, and I don't really like that chick. But after weeks of Bailey acting weird, hiding her phone, mentioning Cal constantly, and suddenly not wanting to go out, my paramedic instincts were screaming something was off. Figured if Bailey was into this dude, her best friend would know. And if Jenna said everything was cool, I could finally stop overthinking and just enjoy Valentine's Day. Hey Jenna. Weird question, but has Bailey mentioned anything about our neighbor Cal to you? She's been acting different around him, I texted. There was a long pause before she replied. No idea what you're talking about. Bailey hasn't mentioned any neighbor to me. You're probably overthinking it. That made me feel a bit better and more excited. I was being paranoid after all. Maybe the stress of planning a wedding was getting to both of us. Anyway, I got to our apartment around 3 p.m. Her car wasn't in its usual spot, so I figured she was still out running errands or whatever. I let myself in, put the strawberries in the fridge, and started setting up for our evening. I noticed a massive bouquet of roses and lilies sitting right on our dining table like it owned the place. Not some cheap grocery store arrangement, but a professional, expensive-looking display that must have cost a couple $100 at least. I was confused. Did I order flowers and forget about it? Did her mom send something? But as I walked closer, I saw the card attached to the vase. Happy Valentine's Day. Enjoy, Cal. My stomach dropped. I stood there staring at this thing for what felt like forever, trying to process it. Who sends expensive flowers to someone else's fiancé on Valentine's Day? And more importantly, why would Bailey accept them? I heard keys jingling at the door and turned to see Bailey walking in holding a shopping bag. She froze when she saw me standing there with the card in my hand, and her face went white. What the hell is this? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Oh, those? She put her bag down, trying to sound casual but failing miserably. Cal just left them on the doorstep. I found them when I came home earlier. Oh, why would your neighbor give you flowers on Valentine's Day? I pressed, still holding the card. It's nothing, just a friendly gift, she said. But she wouldn't look me in the eye. He's just being nice. Nice? These are Valentine's roses, Bailey. And why are you even accepting Valentine's gifts from other men? We're engaged. That's when she flipped the script. God, James, why are you so insecure? It's just flowers. It doesn't mean anything. I stared at her, not believing what I was hearing. In what universe is it normal for an engaged woman to accept romantic gifts from another man on Valentine's Day? In my frustration, I said, if it doesn't mean anything, then you won't mind if I throw them away, and reached for the vase. Don't you dare! Bailey screamed, rushing to intercept me. She grabbed the vase from my hands with such force that water splashed all over both of us. These cost a fortune. You're acting like a jealous child. I stepped back, water dripping from my shirt. The look in her eyes wasn't just anger. It was something else. Like I'd threatened something precious to her, not our relationship, but her connection to Cal. Fine, I said, finally backing off. Keep the damn flowers. I decided to let it go for the moment, thinking maybe I was overreacting. We had an uneasy evening, barely speaking, both of us pretending to watch a movie while sitting on opposite ends of the couch. Over the next couple of days, those flowers became a silent battleground. Bailey kept rearranging them, putting them in more and more prominent spots in our apartment. First the kitchen counter, then the coffee table, then the nightstand on her side of the bed. It was like she was rubbing them in my face, daring me to say something. I tried to let it go. 3 years together meant something, right? Maybe I was making a mountain out of a molehill. But every time I saw those flowers, something in my gut twisted. It wasn't just about the flowers anymore, it was about respect, or lack of it. Then one day, I pressed her more. So he just left them at the door? You didn't see him at all? She hesitated, fidgeting with her engagement ring. Well, I mean, he handed them to me quickly when I came home earlier, but it was like a 2-second interaction. So he didn't leave them at the door like you said before. I could feel my blood pressure rising. She sighed. What difference does it make? I was trying to avoid exactly this, you freaking out over nothing. I was getting more pissed by the second. Nothing? He gave you roses on Valentine's Day, and you accepted them while wearing the engagement ring I bought you. She rolled her eyes like I was being the unreasonable one. He only stayed for like 5 minutes to have a quick drink. It's not like we hooked up or anything. Jesus. Wait, what? Now he came inside and you had drinks? So first he left them at the door, then he handed them to you. Now you invited him in for drinks. What's the actual truth, Bailey? My voice was getting louder now, but I couldn't help it. She started crying. You're exposed a complete man-child right now. It was an innocent interaction. Cal's just being friendly. What kind of engaged woman thinks it's appropriate to accept flowers from another man on Valentine's Day? And why does your story keep changing? I was beyond frustrated at this point. I looked at the flowers, these stupid, expensive flowers that some other dude gave my fiancé, and the way she was insisting on keeping them was so weird. I want you to throw these away. They're disrespectful to our relationship. No way, she still insisted, wiping away tears that I was starting to think were fake. They're beautiful flowers, and I'm keeping them. You don't get to control what I keep in my own home. That's when she hit below the belt. Maybe I accepted them because it's nice to get attention from a real man sometimes, instead of someone who wastes all his time playing with old cars. That stung. The El Camino wasn't just some hobby. It was something I was building for our future, something we had talked about driving on weekend trips after we got married. That old car is a classic El Camino I'm restoring for us, I told her, my voice dangerously quiet now, and it's worth more than your boyfriend's leased BMW. She doubled down. You know what? Men hit on me all the time because I'm beautiful. I'm used to it. I can replace you in no time. Cal is just one of many guys who want me. You have to get used to it. Replace me? At that moment, I didn't recognize the woman standing in front of me. This wasn't the Bailey I fell in love with. This was someone else entirely. I need some space to clear my head. Your story keeps changing, and I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm staying at my place tonight. We'll talk tomorrow when you decide to tell me the truth. As I was packing a bag, she flipped between crying and yelling. 1 minute I was controlling and jealous. The next she was begging me not to leave. I told her I wasn't breaking up. Just needed time to think. I didn't ask for the ring back yet. Not sure why. Fine, leave, she finally shouted as I headed for the door. Cal wouldn't be such a baby about something so stupid. I stopped, hand on the doorknob. Keep talking about Cal. You're making my decision a lot easier. Then I walked out. The sound of her sobbing followed me down the hallway. The next day, my phone blew up. Not just Bailey, but her friends too. It didn't take her long to start spreading the drama. They're all calling me an insecure man-child. Jenna, who I texted before the whole thing blew up, sent this long paragraph about how real men don't feel threatened by friendships and how I need to grow up. Funny how she went from Bailey hasn't mentioned any neighbor to defending their friendship so quickly. Bailey's sister texted that I'm sabotaging the best thing that ever happened to me. Her mom called to say I'm overreacting to a simple misunderstanding. It was like Bailey had activated her entire support network to gaslight me. None of them knew the full story. Bailey probably told them Cal innocently gave her some small flowers or something. Not an expensive professional arrangement, and definitely not about how her story kept changing 3 times. I didn't respond to any of them. What was the point? They'd already made up their minds based on whatever version of events Bailey had fed them. I spent the next few days at my old apartment I mentioned before. I'd kept the lease even after moving in with Bailey because the rental market in our city is insane, and we were planning to sell it after the wedding to help with a down payment on a house. Now I was grateful for the foresight. The space gave me time to think. Was I overreacting? Was I being insecure? I kept replaying the conversation over and over, focusing on how Bailey's story had evolved from he left them at the door to he handed them to me to he came in for drinks. If it was all innocent, why lie? I started remembering cracks I'd ignored. One time early on, we were watching some dating reality show and a guy dumped his fiancée after she crossed a line with another guy. Bailey scoffed and said, "That's so fragile. If your girl's hot, guys are going to try. You just have to be confident enough to handle it." I remember laughing it off back then. Now that line hits a whole lot different. And no matter how I tried to spin it in my head, one thing was for sure, the trust was broken, especially after the disrespectful words she said. And I needed time to decide if it could be repaired. For the next week, I focused on work and spent evenings in my apartment working on the El Camino designs. I finally ordered the new carburetor I'd been saving up for, and I was excited to install it. Every time I looked at the plans, I remembered Bailey mocking my car, and it fueled my resolve to make it even better than originally planned. Meanwhile, her friends kept messaging me. Jenna sent daily novels about how I was being unreasonable. Another friend, Megan, who I'd only met twice, suddenly had strong opinions about my toxic masculinity. Bailey's sister called me controlling in a group text that accidentally included me. Her dad called man to man, saying all couples have misunderstandings. I respected him, so I kept it civil but stood my ground. "Sir, with all due respect, there's more to this story than Bailey's probably told you." Through it all, Bailey alternated between angry texts calling me childish and tearful voicemails begging me to come home. I wasn't sure what to believe anymore. After 10 days since Valentine's Day, I was still staying at my apartment. Still hadn't made a final decision about the relationship. But something kept bugging me. Bailey's story had changed so many times and I needed to know the truth before I made any big move. So I swallowed my pride and went to see Dave, our building manager. Dave's a retired cop who's always been cool with me, especially after I helped his wife during an asthma attack last summer. I awkwardly asked if our building had security cameras in the hallways and if I could see footage from Valentine's Day near my apartment. That week, someone had reported a package theft in our building, so Dave had been reviewing footage from different floors. Total coincidence, but it gave me the perfect window to bring it up. I didn't even have to dig too deep, just asked if he saw anything weird on our floor around Valentine's Day. Dave's a sharp guy. Gave me one long look, then nodded and told me to follow him to the office, only mentioning that footage was stored for about 2 weeks. 20 minutes later, I was watching Cal arrive at our door at 12:30 p.m. with those damn flowers. Bailey let him in all smiles, and according to the timestamp, he didn't leave until 1:37 p.m., over an hour later. My gut churned. A quick drink for 5 minutes was actually over an hour behind closed doors on Valentine's Day while I was at work saving lives and planning a surprise for her. I thanked Dave for the footage, feeling sick to my stomach, and my mind was racing. As much as I was mad at Bailey, I was disgusted with Cal too. He knew we were engaged, he'd looked me in the eye and talked about the weather like we were cool, then snuck around behind my back. That's not just disrespectful, that's snake behavior, and I don't shake hands with snakes. Later that same day, as I was planning my next move, I got an unexpected message, this time from Jenna, Bailey's best friend, the same one who told me she knew nothing about any neighbor, then turned around and lectured me about being threatened by friendships. "You should see this," she wrote. "Bailey's been talking about you to everyone." She sent me screenshots from their group chat. 6 of Bailey's friends, including Jenna, mocking me. Bailey calling me pathetic and saying I can't satisfy her, saying she and Cal have been talking for weeks and he makes her feel alive. There were jokes about my car, my job, even comments about my performance in bed that made my blood boil. Then Jenna added, "I think you could do so much better than Bailey. You should leave her for me. We could get to know each other," like she was some kind of hero for showing me this. But something seemed off. Why was she suddenly on my side? That's when I noticed that while she'd shown me everyone else's messages clear as day, Jenna's own comments in the chat were all blacked out with that markup tool in the screenshot app. She was showing me Bailey's betrayal while hiding her own contributions to the trash-talking session. Real convenient. I've worked in emergency services long enough to know those iPhone markup tools aren't actually permanent. 2 minutes of editing in Photoshop and I could see what's under them. I did that. And guess what? Jenna's comments were the worst of all, calling me a tiny loser and joking about how Bailey should replace me with a real man before it's too late. She even suggested Bailey should keep the engagement ring when I inevitably get dumped. So that was Jenna's play. Sell Bailey out after they probably had a falling out or some petty drama, all while trying to paint herself as the loyal friend just looking out for me. Classic snake move. She wasn't doing it for me. She was doing it for herself, hoping I'd be stupid enough to trade one liar for another. Now, reading all the crap my fiancé said about me and then seeing Jenna try to slide in like she was some upgrade, I was done with both of them. Burn it all down, level done. I screenshotted the unedited version and sent her a message. If I could do better than Bailey, I sure as hell wouldn't downgrade to you. Sorry, I don't date fat girls. Low blow maybe, but after seeing what she'd been saying about me behind my back while pretending to be concerned, I wasn't feeling particularly charitable. She replied, "Wow, that was rude." I sent her the unedited screenshots and said, "Yeah, it was meant to be," then blocked her. Now I had all the evidence I needed. Bailey had been playing me for a fool, lying to my face while talking trash behind my back. And apparently Cal wasn't just some random neighbor giving friendly flowers. They'd been talking for weeks and spending significant time alone together. I also found something interesting when I looked more closely at the chat timestamps. Based on the dates, Bailey had started trash-talking me to her friends around the same time Cal moved in. Before that, there were messages about wedding plans and how excited she was. It was like a switch had flipped the moment a newer, shinier option presented itself. What really got me was a screenshot from 2 months earlier. Bailey had sent a picture of the engagement ring to the group chat with the caption, "Is it too late to upgrade? James's grandma's ring is so basic. Her grandmother's ring. The one I'd gotten resized and had restored because Bailey had once said she loved vintage jewelry with history behind it. The one I'd been so proud to give her." Jenna had responded, "Throw the man and the ring away. Get yourself a real diamond." That's when it hit me. She never valued anything about me. Not my job, not my car restoration. Not even the symbol of our commitment. Everything was replaceable to her, including me. I was just a placeholder until something shinier came along. At that point, I was sure as hell that it was time to end this charade and take back my self-respect. So I didn't waste time. I drove straight to our apartment with the security footage and screenshots saved on my phone. When I walked in, Bailey looked surprised to see me. She was wearing another one of my shirts, hair up in that messy bun I used to love, looking up at me with her puppy eyes. I didn't give a damn about that. I wasn't even seeing her anymore. "We need to talk," I told her, sitting down at the kitchen table. "James, I'm so glad you're home," she started, her voice soft and hopeful. "I've been thinking about everything and—" I cut her off and slid my phone across the table. "Explain this." Her face dropped as she watched the security footage showing Cal's hour-long Valentine's Day visit. Then she scrolled through the screenshots of her trashing me to her friends, her face growing paler with each swipe. "Where did you get these?" she demanded, voice shaking. "Does it matter? Is any of it not true?" I countered. She tried to deny it at first, claiming the video was misleading, and that the group chat was just girls venting and doesn't mean anything. Said I was violating her privacy by looking at her private conversations. "The ring, Bailey," I said calmly. "I want it back." "James, please," she began to cry, those big tears I used to not be able to resist. "I was just upset. I didn't mean any of those things. Cal means nothing to me. The ring. Now." She started crying harder but finally took it off and placed it on the table between us. 3 years together, 8 months engaged, and it ends like this. But I felt nothing but relief. "You know what's funny?" I told her as I pocketed the ring. "I ran into Cal at the gym yesterday. He was actually pretty cool to me. Said he has a girlfriend in another city and only sent you those flowers because you'd been flirting with him for weeks. He thought it was just a hookup. Guess you weren't as special to him as you thought." I'm not sure if the girlfriend part was true, but Cal did mention to me once in passing that Bailey had been the one initiating things. That was after we had a fight, and the look on her face told me it hit home. "That's not true," she whispered, but her eyes said otherwise. "He told me his girlfriend and him were on a break." I actually laughed. So you admit there was something going on? Man, you can't even keep your lies straight for 5 minutes. She switched tactics. This is all your fault, she hissed. If you paid more attention to me instead of that stupid car, none of this would have happened. No, Bailey. This is all on you. You chose to disrespect our relationship. You chose to lie. You chose to trash me to your friends. Nobody forced you to do any of that. I stood up, suddenly exhausted by the whole situation. I'll come back for the rest of my stuff next week. Leave it packed by the door. Where are you going to go? She demanded, as if I hadn't been staying at my own apartment for over a week already. That's not your concern anymore. As I headed for the door, she made one last desperate attempt. James, please. We can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut off contact with Cal. Whatever you want. I turned back to look at her one last time. Tell Cal I said thanks. He saved me from marrying the wrong woman. Then I walked out, closing the door on that chapter of my life. I sold the ring the next day for $4,800. Used the money to buy the custom headers and exhaust system I'd been eyeing for the El Camino, plus a new set of racing seats. Every time that engine roars now, it reminds me that I dodged a bullet. Bailey blew up my phone for the first month. Hundreds of texts, dozens of calls. She'd swing wildly between apologizing profusely and accusing me of ruining her life. One night, she showed up at my apartment at 2 a.m., clearly not sober, pounding on the door and crying. I didn't let her in, just called her an Uber from my phone and watched through the peephole until she left. I blocked her number after that, but she started using her friends' phones to contact me. Eventually, I changed my number and only gave it to people I trusted. The worst part was the smear campaign. Bailey told everyone who would listen that I was controlling and abusive, that I'd isolated her from her friends, that I'd thrown out her birthday flowers from a platonic friend in a jealous rage. Some people believed her. I lost a few casual friends over it. But the ones who really mattered stuck by me. My work buddies, my family, even a couple of mutual friends who knew Bailey was full of shit. Dave from building management kept me updated occasionally. Apparently Cal completely ghosted Bailey after I moved out. Turns out he really did have a serious girlfriend in another city, and Bailey was just a Valentine's fling for him. Her friends slowly stopped inviting her out, probably tired of her drama. Even Jenna distanced herself after I sent those unedited screenshots to their whole group. Karma's a bitch. I've seen Cal a couple times since then. He never says a word now. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's because the last time he tried to talk to me I told him, "You don't get to smile at someone you disrespected. Keep it moving." Bailey's mom called me once about 2 months after the breakup, asked if there was any chance of reconciliation. I kept it short and cold. I wish her the best, but we're done permanently. She made a mistake, James, her mom pleaded. Everyone deserves a second chance. Some mistakes you don't come back from, I replied and ended the call. It's been a couple of months now. I've moved into my own place closer to work with a garage for the El Camino. I hit the gym 4 times a week, partly as stress relief, partly because I'm single again and want to look good. The El Camino's almost completely restored. I take it out on weekends and it turns heads everywhere. Sometimes I think about how Bailey mocked it, called it a waste of time. The guys in her group chat joked that it looked like a mullet on wheels, but I don't care. I wasn't building it to impress anyone. I was creating something real, not leasing a shiny facade every 2 years like some people I know. Now it's worth 3 times what I put into it, and every time I tighten a bolt on that car, it feels like I'm piecing myself back together. I've put more care into this car than Bailey ever put into us. Oh, by the way, I ran into Bailey at the grocery store last week. She looked rough, hair unstyled, dark circles under her eyes. She tried to start a conversation, asked how I was doing in this small, hesitant voice that was nothing like the confident woman I fell for. "I'm good," I said, not stopping my shopping. "Take care of yourself, James." "Wait," she called after me. "I miss you." I just kept walking. There was nothing left to say. I haven't dated much since the breakup. Just a few casual things, nothing serious. I'm not ready yet, and I'm in no rush. I've learned that being alone is better than being with someone who doesn't respect you. And when I do meet someone new, the bar is set a lot higher. Last night I was driving down the coast highway at sunset. Windows down, engine rumbling, not a care in the world. Pulled over at a scenic viewpoint just to watch the sun sink into the ocean. And you know what? For the first time in months, I did